The United States military budget is hands down the most enormous of any country in the world, almost 3 times as high as the next challenger. With so much money to spend, the armed forces have created monumental weapon after monumental weapon, splashing billions of dollars to ensure the most advanced systems are readily available. Although not every project turns out to be successful, covering an array of vehicles and technologies including sound-breaking fighter jets armed with elite targeting missiles and nuclear-powered attack submarines. As you're about to see, the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines spare no expense. It looks like a trailblazing desert 4x4, but in reality it's so much more. This is the Joint Mine-Resistant Ambush Protected Vehicle, and it comes with a price tag of $41.6 billion. That's equivalent to not just one Jeep Wrangler, not 10, but over 1.5 million. Of course, that $41.6 billion isn't per unit. It covers the research and development costs as well. The Mine-Resistant Ambush Protected program began in 2007 as a response to the increasing threats in Iraq at the time, and continued until production officially ended in 2012. So what does this uber-expensive vehicle actually do? Not only is it bulletproof, but it's also built to withstand heavy explosives like landmines and propelled rockets. In terms of attacking power, room for CROWS was installed, which stands for Common Remotely Operated Weapons Station. This is mounted on the vehicle's roofs, making the fleet both offensive and defensive mobile weaponry. Approximately 20,000 MRAPs were produced, although these days many of them sit in storage. Used by both the US Navy and the British Navy, our next military weapon sees the 41+ billion bucks of the ambush-protected vehicles and raises it by another 10 billion. Capable of moving at an astounding speed of 13,000 miles an hour, this is the Trident II missile, an exorbitant project built by Lockheed Martin Space Systems, which required a joint British-American venture of 53.2 billion bucks. It's officially classified as an SLBM. What? A submarine-launched ballistic missile, which, means that it can be propelled from water onto land hundreds of miles away with ultimate precision. At this point, it's never been used. Some would say that's reason enough to call it an absurd waste of money. However, many others would argue that absence of use is the best outcome. You see, the Trident II missile, which is over 42 feet long, is armed with thermonuclear warheads. And we all know the irreversible damage a weapon of that caliber could cause. From the sea to the skies, cast your eye toward our next military money guzzler, the Bell Boeing V-22 Osprey. Powered by multiple Rolls-Royce T406 engines, the unmistakable Osprey is capable of extremely short takeoffs and landings. Take a look. If that weren't impressive enough, it also boasts the ability for direct vertical takeoff and landing. Designed specifically for Air Force combat search and rescue, fleet logistics support, and special warfare support, the Osprey is a long-range transport vehicle that combines the most notable and useful characteristics of both helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft. And it wasn't cheap. The V-22 Osprey has cost the U.S. Air Force a whopping $57.8 billion and counting. Those expenses went to features such as mid-air refueling and foldable rotors, allowing the aircraft to be stored aboard an aircraft carrier or an assault ship. Unfortunately, the project encountered a lot of hiccups. During the testing from 1991 to 2006, there were 4 crashes, resulting in a number of casualties. This forced the engineers to reassess and made the project far more expensive than initially planned. Compared to the Osprey, our next vehicular weapon offers a far more menacing appearance, jam-packed with danger. A 20mm automatic machine gun, air-to-ground missiles, air-to-air missiles, and even laser-guided bombs. These are the destructive, seriously expensive FA-18E and FA-18F Super Hornet. Oh, and on top of that, they can travel faster than the speed of sound, maxing out at 1,190 miles per hour. What's the differences? Not a whole lot, really. The FA-18E has a single-seat cockpit, while the FA-18F has room for 2. Most of these aircraft are currently in use with the US Navy, meaning that they're stationed on moving aircraft carriers. Built by Boeing, these fighter jets have an individual production cost of close to $70.5 million. But compared to the entire program cost, that's pennies. Are you ready for this? Up until 2011, the military had spent $48.09 billion in total on the Super Hornets. It appears to be a well-thought-out investment because they've continued to be operational even once their successor, the F-35, got off the ground. At a startling cost of $83.7 billion, any guesses what's coming up next? Air Force One, a super tank, a missile defense system. Nope, it's a submarine. The Virginia-class submarine, to be precise. Described by the military as an advanced stealth multi-mission nuclear-powered submarine for anti-submarine warfare and littoral operations, this underwater beast is chock full of firepower. It's got mines, torpedoes, and even Tomahawk missiles, ready to propel miles in any direction. Not just one Tomahawk, though. Try a dozen. The Virginia features two 87-inch payload tubes, each of which are capable of launching 6 Tomahawk cruise missiles. But why is there a need for such a wide variety of equipment and weaponry in the first place? The answer is that the Virginia-class sub is meant to be operated in both shallow and deep waters, depending on the circumstances. Since some weapons are more effective than others in certain environments, the crew has everything they need on board for any warfare situation. In essence, this brute of a vessel is ready for anything. Next up, we've got the jaw-dropping Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, or the THAAD Ballistic Missile Defense System for short. It's a high-tech rocket interceptor that chalked up a bill of $1.1 billion in the 2019 calendar year alone. Considering that this system has been implemented since 2008, you can only imagine the ongoing costs that it runs up. A simple test shoot of 2 missiles in 2012 cost $180 million alone, while the battery rings in it go for about $800 million per unit as well. THAAD systems have been deployed in Hawaii, Guam, the UAE, Turkey, Israel, South Korea, Wake Island, and Romania, with further installments only a matter of time away. So what does it actually do? Well, it's designed to shoot down ballistic missiles before they reach their target, intercepting and destroying them during their final phase of flight. Even though the counter-missile is launched from the ground, it can shoot down missiles inside and outside the atmosphere, capable of reaching heights of 93 miles. Soaring in next, with an overall program cost now standing at nearly $45 billion, this unique aircraft, with its continuous curvature design, is the Northrop Grumman B-2 Spirit. Not only can it infiltrate complex air defense shields thanks to its unique stealth capabilities, but it can also maintain its attacking operations at heights of up to 50,000 feet. Those operations don't come cheap, though. Per hour, just a single B-2 Spirit bomber costs $135,000 to fly. A huge chunk of that comes from maintaining its costly stealth coating, known as alternate high-frequency material, which helps it elude enemy radar detectors. Don't let the stealth fool you, though. There's no lack of attacking power under the hood whatsoever. The 2-pilot bomber is able to carry 40,000 pounds of weapons, can climb 3,000 feet per minute to quickly escape trouble, and has the endurance to outrun any chasers, with a vast range of almost 7,000 miles. Despite all the advanced technology on board, the B-2 isn't without its issues. In fact, one particular B-2, the so-called Spirit of Kansas, malfunctioned upon takeoff in Guam, creating one of the most costly mistakes in military history. We've got an entire video about those military mistakes, so check it out afterwards. The link is in the description. The 2019 national security budget investment for the F-35C fighter jets was $10.7 billion. That's just 1 year at the tail end of a very long, very expensive development and improvement program that has tallied in the general vicinity of $400 billion. Wow, $400 billion. The F-35 Lightning II isn't just one of the most expensive aircraft ever built, but one of the most costly expenditures in military history in general. This came down to the fact that it had a lot of teething problems. Far more setbacks and far more tests were carried out than initially anticipated. However, it got to the point where officials deemed the project too big to fail, so the Air Force continued to pump more and more money into it. What weapons can the F-35 carry, you ask? A lot. How's this for an arsenal? Impressive, isn't it? The precise numbers vary depending on whether it's flying in stealth mode or beast mode, but either way, it packs one hell of a punch. Let's shift our attention away from the U.S. Armed Forces for a moment and make our way across the pond to Great Britain, where apparently they have no qualms forking out the big bucks for military weaponry either, with an overall cost ending just shy of $10 billion, 9.3 if you're nitpicky. This is the HMS Queen Elizabeth, measuring 918 feet in length, 229 feet wide, and weighing 65,000 tons. This nautical mammoth is the largest and most advanced warship ever constructed in Britain. Operating it is no easy task. You'll need at least 679 people on board. As an active aircraft carrier, the Queen Elizabeth has room for up to 36 fighter jets and 14 helicopters. She doesn't just rely on her aircraft, though. The carrier has her own defense systems, too. including a phalanx close-in weapon system for anti-aircraft and anti-missile defense, and multiple 30mm automated small-caliber guns for use against fast-attack watercraft. Making the Queen Elizabeth look like a discounted product, this is the $13 billion USS Gerald Ford, commissioned not too long ago in July 2017. And yep, you heard that correctly, 13 billion with a B. That's almost $3 billion over the original estimated budget, an increase that was pinned down to the unforeseen delays of the top secret technology on board. Even though it went over budget, considering that the USS Gerald Ford could deploy weapons up to 25% faster than its most successful predecessor, there was minimal hesitation splashing the extra cash. In addition to its built-in weaponry, the carrier is capable of holding up to 90 aircraft, including the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter and the Super Hornets that we spoke of earlier. That said, perhaps what's most amazing is that despite being a monolithic 1,106 foot long and 25 decks high, it's almost undetectable by radar.